The edge. There is no honest way to explain it, because the only people who really know where it is are the ones who have gone over. The others, the living, are those who pushed their control as far as they felt they could handle it, and then pulled back or slowed down. But the edge is still out there.
And good evening, everybody. This is Rick here on Paranormal World Live. I see chat is going crazy right now, so that is an awesome sign. I want to thank everybody who is tuning in. I know Kirsten said it was her first time here, so welcome to Paranormal World Live. And if it's the same Kirsten that was at the live show last night for the Echo Vox session, I appreciate you coming by, and everybody else that is tuning in. My normal spiel before the show, if you're on the outside looking in and you're trying to figure out where to get to this chat, because it is kind of hard to find on the website, if you go to nowhiners2.caster.fm, on the right-hand side underneath the live broadcast, you're going to see the bubble in the middle. It's got like two chat bubbles. You click on that, that's going to bring you directly to the chat. And now, if you want to call in, we also have a live call-in number, and that live call-in number is 813-642-7922. It is being posted in chat right now. So if you have any questions for the guest, you can go ahead and call in and do that. But let's get right to it. I'm honored to have this guy on the show. One of the better investigators that I know. And he runs Interface Death, and it's out of what part of Ohio are you from?
Hillsboro,
Ohio. All right. His name is Justin Brown. How you doing, Justin?
I'm doing pretty good. Can't complain much.
Yeah. All right. Well, I usually try to start off the show with asking what got you into the paranormal. What brought you to the dark side?
Well, at a young age, I was experiencing some things. I guess it started with my mother. My mother is a typical self-proclaimed psychic. Her and her sister pretty much pumped me full of stories that involved her house that she grew up in outside of Hillsboro, Ohio, that was haunted. And she kind of brought me up believing that she was abducted by aliens, the whole schmeal, man. And I was pretty much under the impression that my mother was either absolute or that she could be telling me something that actually happened. So as I grew up through my teens and into high school, my mom and dad was pretty much in a troubled relationship. They ended up getting divorced, but before that happened, they bought a house from a firefighter in town. And it just so happened that this firefighter, after he sold the house that he built and raised his family in, he was having marital problems. His wife was cheating on him. He found out about it. He rolled his truck out into his field and shot himself and killed himself in his new residence. Well, it just so happened that he come back to the house that we were living in and haunted it for years, all the way up to the point where it was eventually tore down. But the events that happened in that home is pretty much what got me geared into believing in the paranormal, dealing with it, and being influenced by it. And we're talking about severe poltergeist activity. Pretty much, if you watch the movie Poltergeist, that's pretty much what kind of things I was dealing with. Psychokinetic events, telekinetic events. People reported seeing apparitions. Other people who would come to the home that were sensitive to those types of things would also report this. But I will tell you what really sold me on the reality of it. I was living in the upstairs. There was 2 bedrooms that me and my brother shared, but at the time it was just me and my father that lived there. And I had a 2-year-old son. And we were up there one day, and we were just talking, hanging out together, and he mentioned that he was playing with a man named John. And at this point, his English is very poor. He can barely construct sentences. So he mentioned the name John, and I asked him, Are you talking about your grandpa John? 'Cause my father's name is John. And he looked at me and said, no, John R., he's dead. And the guy who sold his house, who killed himself, and that my mother believed that was haunting the place, his name was John R. And this was the first clear, full sentence that my son has ever said to me. And it messed me up so bad. I ran out of the house screaming. I puked. I went through shock. From that day on, I just didn't have the luxury of, putting aside the reality that what was really happening was real. It wasn't a figment of my imagination. And I had to deal with the stress that one would go through of a spirit messing with your kid, that you can't do anything about. So from that point on, I really needed to take a better look at the paranormal and understand it more. But, there was more events that happened throughout my life, but these events were not jam-packed together. They're far and few between, but that's pretty much sums up why I'm into the paranormal, just because of that profound experience.
Yeah, you brought up a great point. I mean, when your kids, basically when it starts involving your kids, that's when we lose a lot of our investigators, because when they get into this field, they have no idea sometimes what they're getting themselves into. And when it starts messing with your family and emotionally attaching to you, that's when the problems start to happen. And I've heard of a lot of stories of investigators dropping out of the business because something followed them home or something was in their house and it started messing with their kids. So that's it's kind of crazy. But you don't live in that house anymore, right?
No, it got tore down, and this was probably in the early 2000s, probably 2003, 2004. He was born in 2001, so I'm thinking 2003.
Yeah, and you said you experienced poltergeist activity. What kind of stuff happened?
The manipulation of electronic devices. It would turn it on and off radios and CD players, fans, lights. It started, the telekinetic thing started with, I'll never forget this, me and my now wife were sitting on the same love seat me and my son were when he told me that he spoke to John R. We're sitting there watching a movie, and there's a penny laying on top of the VCR. And I just happened to look at it, and as I look at it, it flips. It actually levitates off the VCR. It does a complete revolution flip and lands right where it was at. And I turned and looked at my wife, and I was like, "Did you see that?" And she's like, "Yeah, I seen that." And you kind of go through the whole process of, "Wow, I really can't believe I just seen that." Your brain kind of fights what actually happened, and then pennies and other small objects like that across the room randomly at you, at visitors coming in the home, and then it eventually escalated to ripping doors and shattering doors off their hinges, windows, and that sort of thing.
Oh, wow, yeah. Now, when you met your wife, was she a believer in the paranormal, or did you have to basically let her experience it?
She believed in it. She kind of grew up in a home that had spirit activity in it, but not to that degree. But she definitely believed that it was possible.
Yeah, and that's a good thing, because then you don't have to get the crazy looks on when you're leaving on a weekend night, late in the night, and he's going out paranormal investigating again type deal. So, yeah, it makes for a better relationship. Is she part of your team too? Does she help you out?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, well, how many people do you have on your team total?
I don't have a solid core team. I'm getting about 4 or 5 core team, but I think I have 11 that actually have participated in investigations, but they all don't attend every investigation.
You have the ones that you can fall back on and type deal and all that, which makes it a lot easier, because some people, they have other stuff going on in their life. So, but in the past of Interface Death, what are some of the spots that you guys have been to? I mean, have you been to any famous locations or anything like that?
Famous, I would say maybe a couple. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's probably one of the most haunted places in Ohio. It's called Moonville Tunnel. I've done that. I'm trying to think. No, I tried to steer away from very well-known places that are infamous for being haunted for a few reasons. The main reason is I do documentary films, and I don't want people to see the same thing over and over and over again. What I kind of try to focus on is the local legends of right where I live. I dig into the history and the legends surrounding, my county and the southern Ohio region, and I do the stories and hauntings people's never heard about. That's what I usually target. But if I'm to think of anything that your listeners would have heard of before, I don't think I've actually done a case like that. I usually stick to the no-name places.
Those are the good ones, too, because you want to get the word out there. You said you shoot documentaries. I know, didn't you just finish shooting a documentary on an urban legend or a myth, or not a myth, but a story down there in your area?
Yeah, it's an urban legend. A lot of people may know about the Mothman legend in Point Pleasant. There was a movie done about it, I think in early 2000s, like 2002 or something. And it was starred Richard Gere, however you say his name. And that all transpired in 1966 and 67, and it dealt with the sightings of the Mothman and how the collapse of the Silver Bridge was connected with the Mothman sightings. And now it's all like a military conspiracy, and it involves military bunkers where they stored weapons out there, and that's where the sightings started. And that was pretty wild. They have an annual festival. I think this year was the 13th annual Mothman Festival, and it's kind of like Roswell, but not as huge.
Okay. And a question from chat, which is, this is one of my questions too. Sebastian from Dust Till Dawn, which he was my guest last week, was a great show. He asked, what location has impacted you the most?
I would have to say that it was a private residential case. Then what we usually target is the private residential cases that involve untimely death of family members, mostly children, but we do cases where it's a spouse or a close family member that's either lived at the home or involves the home they live. And in this particular case, the client had lost his 15-year-old daughter. She actually died in their garage. She suffocated to death due to respiratory issues. And he had reported that him, his wife, and some of his family members were experiencing very strong paranormal activity that they believed was caused by his daughter. And some of those involved very vivid dreams. Like, I think his wife woke up to a dream that her daughter was holding her hand, and as she woke up, she was still there holding it and disappeared in front of her eyes. The brother of the wife was asleep on a couch in the basement, and he was touched on the face. And I guess from what the husband reports, he was freaked out real bad about that. Never would come back to the house after that. They would experience cold spots, all the little subtle things that you would equate to a haunting. So when I went in there and set up, pretty much 4.5 hours of Class A EVPs, death state type audio, which would involve a young female suffocating to death, anomalies on video. I actually, the first time I've ever seen a spirit manifest for the client. I don't release anything about this case because it was actually kept from the wife, okay, because she was so distraught that she couldn't deal with it. But the husband definitely needed to know. So the only thing it's in one of my tutorial videos, is an EVP we caught using a ghost box. And I was trying to get, his daughter to say, "I love you." And she had done that. And once we were, replaying the playback of that, trying to get the client to hear it, she actually manifested to him. And I didn't get that on video, but I got it on audio. And this guy is kind of like one of those straight shooters, really doesn't, believe that much into the paranormal, doesn't watch shows, isn't an enthusiast or anything. And he was cool as a cucumber, poker face the whole way through. And then when this happened to him, he turned white as a ghost. He jumped out of his chair and was shaking uncontrollably. Couldn't even talk for a couple minutes. And I would think that's been the most impactful, profound thing that I've witnessed so far.
Yeah, and the private residences, they do bring that factor in because, I mean, they're calling you in for help. And like that one where the daughter, I mean, that had to be really emotional.
Yeah, half my team couldn't even attend it because they knew the whole, this was someone in the community that everybody knew.
Yeah. When you did your investigation and then your evidence review with the family, do you believe that you helped her pass over, or were you just solely there to document?
Well, in those cases, I try to help, and I want the listeners to understand that there's ethics involved. Now, some paranormal teams, they can do more harm than good, but I had to fight some of my investigators because one of my investigators to the client. So I had to pretty much push her to the side and say, hey, look, we're only going to go in this one time. We're not going to investigate it any further. And the reason that is one of our strongest rules is to not hold a spirit from crossing or be involved in a spirit not crossing. And what we were able to establish was, since the marriage was in turmoil and almost ending in the result of her death, that may have been the biggest factor of her not crossing, because most spirits who choose to stay don't really think of themselves a lot. They really see how their death impacts the living, and they like to stick around and try to help them, or they're just concerned in this case. And I pretty much told our client that, hey, even though this may not be what you want to hear, but you really need to do what you can to patch up the marriage, get this house back in the running, because, man, it was freaky when you went in this house. She died a few days after Christmas in 2013, and they left the whole house completely how it was from that day. Like, there was still a Christmas tree with unopened presents underneath. There was garland. Everything was the same. Her room was the same. And everywhere you looked, there was a huge picture of it in a shrine for her everywhere. In each room, multiple places. And it was just freaky, man. Yeah. It was freaky.
After you guys had left, has there been any other documented activity at the place or anything like that? Have they gotten a hold of you?
No, I told him not to. I told him that if anything happens after that, then he has experience in audio and video and stuff. So I told him pretty much how he can go about doing it on his own. He hasn't reported anything to me, which is good. I think, and since then things have gotten better in his marriage. And when I look at him on Facebook, they look happy. That looks like they're starting to move on. So I'm going to assume that the activity is either slowed down or they know what it is, so they don't have a problem with it.
Okay, and it's weird because you were talking basically like the haunting was almost, I don't want to use the word evil, but there was something going on. I mean, if she suffocated, was it? I mean, as much as you can give out. Because I know the whole confidentiality thing with your clients, but was it like, did she do the exhaust fumes into the car? Or?
No, she had a respiratory issue. She had really bad asthma.
Oh, okay.
And other few things, and she went into an asthmatic attack in their garage or in the house somewhere. And as she ran out to the garage, I guess she was trying to run out. They assumed she was running out there to get air or something. And the mother was the only parent home at the time, and she ran out there. She was an actual nurse, So she tried to resuscitate and clear the passageway and get her breathing again, but she couldn't do it, and she ended up dying there on her.
Oh, wow.
In the garage.
All right. So when you guys go into these places, when you're doing your investigations, what is your go-to equipment? What stuff do you use?
Primarily, we use handheld IR cameras, camcorders. On occasion, if it's convenient, we do use IR security CCTV cameras with a DVR. We use digital recorders. We specialize in EVP and ITC research, primarily with spirit boxes. I use two, PSP7 and a Shack Hack 12587. And I do use a millimeter REM SDD, which has the REM technology and the shadow detection. And I did use that in the case we're talking about, and it's pretty cool with the shadow detection feature. Is you can set it up where there's nobody, at or anything that give a false positive and actually get it to trip is pretty cool. But that's pretty much what I use. I don't use apps. I don't use dowsing rods or pendulums or crystals. We try to keep it scientific as possible, even though we do have spiritual beliefs and so on and so forth. We try to just be objective, but that's pretty much all I use as far as equipment. Is there anybody on your team that you would consider a sensitive empath or a medium or anything like that? I am training a psychic right now, but she has been busy. Her fiance is in the military, and he's been away in training, and he might be getting shipped out here soon, but she hasn't been a part of the group for a while. But I am trying to do some type of metaphysical research. I do have one video documentary of a case that she was in, a couple, but we actually did an experiment. And I call them experiments. I know a lot of groups go in and they say, I've sensed this, I feel that, but we kind of do it differently. But as far as the others, we do not advertise if we're psychic or sensitive or empaths. I mean, I don't claim to be psychic or anything like that, but I have on occasion proven on video that I can sense things. Like, for example, if I feel a certain type of sensation, I can say that before I get like a EMF hit or something on another device to back it up. That's the only time that we do certain things like that, if we can back it up with something else like that. Yeah, and that's one of the best pieces of equipment that anybody has is really their body. I mean, the body will react. But another great question comes out, and you said you don't use the applications, but I know for a fact you've heard of the Echo Box. Have you guys haven't tried that on any of your investigations, or? Not on investigations, but I do research and experiment with those devices. Okay. And your overall, I mean, do you think it gives you good results, or? No, I don't think it gives you good results. Anything that spits out just stuff randomly is inconclusive, in my opinion. What I do with the spirit box is I shield it or use it in places that shield it, like the TNT bunkers in West Virginia, tunnels, caves, underground places, stuff like that. And if I can't be in those places, I just shield it with Faraday or tinfoil or any way I can. And the reason why I just don't like using the Echovox and similar devices is they just spit out things. And even though that I believe it's possible that spirits can manipulate the device, there's no real way of telling what's a false positive and what's legit. Okay. And another question comes from Chad asking the thoughts on a temp gun. Have you ever used a temp gun before? I have used it. I can give you pros and cons. Pretty much what he's asking is an infrared laser that you'd point, and it gives you kind of a digital readout. And the pro of that is it's very accurate. Okay, it can give you a very accurate reading, especially if you have a decent one. The con of them is it only reads surface temperature, and whatever you point it at, the surface that the laser bounces off of, that's the only reading you're going to get. So there's no ambient temperature reading, or anything like that. So you may, in my opinion, those things have its uses, but I primarily do not use it. I use an ambient temperature device like the Mel meter uses.
Okay. All right. So what we're going to do is you sent me a whole bunch of EVPs, and we're going to try to get through all of them for the show. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the break early, and then when we come back, I believe you sent me 11 EVPs. 12 EVPs in total. I just had to sit here and count them to be sure. So what we're going to do is the last half an hour of the show is we're going to go over where the EVP was caught and what they got and how they did it and all that kind of stuff. But that'll be after the break. So stick around for that, and we will be back here in roughly. we are back. I take that break so I can refill my drinks. But yeah, Kristen says she loves the music. I'm glad you like it. I'm a rock guy myself, so that's what I've mainly been playing. I was going to play another song. I'll play it at the end of the show, one of my favorite groups. But we're going to get back to this. I got Justin from Interface Death on Paranormal World Live. But if you're on the outside looking in still and you're still trying to find that chat, you're a lost soul. But you go to nowhiners2.caster.fm. On the right-hand side, there's going to be 2 chat bubbles. You click on that. That's going to bring it back. I don't have Five Finger Death Punch, Sebastian. I haven't gotten them yet. But yeah, anyways, Justin, before we went to break, we were talking about your experiences and everything. But I forgot to ask you the big question. Where can people find you? What are your web pages?
I have a website. It's under construction. So interface.com, it's the only thing you can really do is find my links to social media. There's a request form for an investigation there. Simple things. There's only like a little bit of photos, but that's just now starting in its infancy. But you can find me on Facebook at Interface Death. Find me on Twitter, Google+, the same name, and YouTube.
Sweet, and I know I've watched a lot of your documented stuff, and it's awesome. So if you guys are not a fan of his stuff, I mean, I go out there after this show and subscribe to everything he's got because, I mean, it's some awesome stuff. But we're going to get to the part of the show that everybody loves because everybody likes to have their nightmares and get creeped out and hear some good EVPs. So, and I know Justin has sent me 12 of them. So we got about 28 minutes to go through 12 of them. So we're going to have some fun with this. But the very first one, Justin, that I have is the baby sound and kill response. Can you tell the viewers where this EVP came from and anything else?
Yes. The location is an urban legend in outside of Chillicothe, Ohio, which is in Ross County. The location is called Crybaby Tunnel. And many of your listeners probably have heard some form of Crybaby Bridge legend before. It's very, well known throughout rural America. But this one pretty much follows along with every Crybaby Bridge legend. A mother went to the bridge or the train tunnel, what have you, discarded the child over the side to get rid of it, and in grief, overcome by grief, she kills herself. And we went there to investigate those claims to see if we can find evidence to support or to debunk. And this particular piece of audio, I was using a spirit box known as a Shack Hack 12587, and we were in a tunnel, a train tunnel that's about 100 yards long. So when we went in there, you turn on the box, you get nothing but static. But when I start asking questions, you get responses. And when I asked for the child to respond, you'll hear that voice, and then you hear the man saying kill.
All right, I've got it set up to play 4 times for the fans, so you're going to hear it a total of 4 times, and then we'll be back to talk about it. But here's the EVP. It's kind of chilling.
Anybody out there want to say anything? Anybody out there want to say anything? Anybody out there want to say anything? Anybody out there want to say anything?
Do you think he was, when the guy comes through and says kill, do you think he's talking about the baby, or did you guys get any kind of evidence from that?
I believe that there's no way to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that it is. The full-length version of that audio is actually on my YouTube channel. If you want to listen to it, by all means, go to it. But I do believe that the kill has something to do with the baby that died there, that kind of spoke out there. And what's interesting, Rick, is we went back again. This was a year ago when I caught that, and we went back to the same location this year and did a documentary at the same place and got the same voice, but it actually spoke a word. So not only was I able to catch that, I was able to replicate it a year later.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's do you have any story? Do you know the history on the baby being killed or anything?
It's just a legend, man. I cannot dig up any death record or newspaper article that says anything about it. And if I actually know an event, if I knew kind of like a time range, that would narrow down how I would be able to search it. But at this point, there's no way to back up if the story is true or not. Now, with that being said, before we move on, I do have a theory that even though that these stories may have no fact about reality, people who go there believing in it might actually cause this to happen. And I have a year and a half's worth of evidence to back that up.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah, it is. I mean, you brought that up during the break when we were talking about pareidolia. I mean, our brains are made to see stuff and hear stuff, so sometimes you will see something that's not there, or sometimes you will hear something that wasn't said, or footsteps or something like that. You always have to find a way to debunk it. So, and I usually say, about 99% of your evidence can almost be explained, but it's that 1% that is paranormal, and that's why, I mean, I don't know how you go out, but I know when we go out, we shoot 6 to 8 hours worth of footage, and you'll probably get 30 minutes out of that if you're lucky. And it just kind of proves that, I mean, it's a lot of editing, and to find this kind of stuff, the Class A EVPs, is awesome. And
right, but I don't want to confuse you, but what I meant by people actually causing that, I mean psychokinetically cause hauntings that will imitate those actual things occurring. So what I'm trying is the mass belief of something being true can actually cause paranormal phenomena.
Okay. All right. Well, this next one is labeled Bobby's Grave. So if you can give them a little backstory on that.
Okay, this is one of my recent ones. I hope I'm not mistaking on it, but I believe that this is towards the end of another Spirit Box session with the PSB-7, and a friend of mine in 2003 killed himself. He shot himself in the head with a 9mm in his bedroom. And I think it was just a few months ago, I went to his grave to try to see if he'd come across. A couple of my investigators was with me. We went to their father's grave. We didn't get anything. Nothing came across the box the entire time, but when we went up to my friends, started, giving me responses, and towards the end, this is what it gave me.
All right, and we are going to play. I got a schedule for 3 times. It's 19 seconds long, so you will hear it 3 times, and then we'll be back to discuss it.
Are you finished talking to it?
You gotta be joking me.
What did he just say?
You gotta be joking
He said
me.
you gotta speak or something.
Alright, Bobby, I'm gonna have to stop this for a second.
Are you finished talking to it?
You gotta be joking me.
What did he just say?
You gotta be joking
He said
me.
you gotta speak or something.
Alright, Bobby, I'm gonna have to stop this for a second.
I want to jump in real quick. Do you know what he says on the EVP before we play this last one?
Yes, my name.
Okay, so he says your name, and is that right before you say you got to be shitting me?
Right.
Okay, well, I'll go ahead and start it again so the fans can actually hear it. Here it goes.
Are you finished talking to it?
You gotta be joking me.
What did he just say?
You gotta be joking
He said
me.
you gotta speak or something.
Alright, Bobby, I'm gonna have to stop this for a second.
It's kind of chilly. He basically confirmed that you were there. And
Right, but if you watch the whole 10-minute video I got, it's ridiculous. Like it's one thing to get responses that great on devices when you investigate, but when you're speaking to someone that you loved in life and that stuff happens, it's like you're completely blown away. It's kind of like the whole story with my son telling me that he spoke to a dead person. You know, it brings it to a whole new reality.
Yeah, that's true. It does. Then you got this other one that is from Bobby's grave too, so it kind of lines up perfectly. Can you give us a little story on how you got this one, where you were? Was it the same spot or?
It's the same spot, same session. I'm sorry if I can't remember what it's saying, but the last two responses, I think it's the "I love you." I asked if he had anything to say to his daughter that's living, and you'll get the response, "I love you." I believe that's what it says. If not, I apologize, and we can adjust to it if not.
Yeah, well, it's titled "Love You," so. Yeah,
Okay, that's what it is.
I'm gonna play it 3 times for the listeners, and this is the one that kind of gave me the chills. So here it goes.
Do you want us to tell your little girl anything?
I love you.
I thought that's what it sounded like. Do you want us to tell your little girl anything?
I love you.
I thought that's what it sounded like. Do you want us to tell your little girl anything?
I love you.
I thought that's what it sounded like.
That's awesome because I mean, you got it right there, and I mean, you're passing on a message for them, and a lot of times that's why spirits are there, because they didn't get to say that message. I got the same thing when I was up in Nebraska when the spirit said, "Tell Jim I love him." So it becomes touching at that point, and it becomes very personal. Did you guys actually pass that message on to his little girl?
Unfortunately, no, because her daughter or his daughter is actually in JDC right now. It's a juvenile detention center.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of tough, but eventually, like I haven't even told the guy the friend of mine that killed himself. I haven't even told his brother that I'm actually friends with. I haven't even got the balls to tell him yet. So yeah, when you listen to it, the hairs on my arms like eject from my body. It's so frighteningly real. I mean, if you're there and you watch a video, I mean, nothing comes across unless you ask it to. I mean, you hear it. It's just static scan and then the response. So it's just like, freaks you out.
Yeah, it does. I mean, especially when you start getting the hair standing up on your arms, and you just that feeling, and that's why your body, I believe, too, is the best tool, because it'll start responding. You gotta know your body and know what it's responding to, type deal. But,
yeah, I actually had to end the session because I couldn't handle it emotionally.
Yeah, because it was more personal for you, and it was basically the same story. I mean, it was with you and with Bobby. With it was the guy and his daughter. I mean, it becomes more personal, and it's very touching when they actually come through and still speak to you. But this next one is the Christie EVP with buzzing and echoing sounds.
Yeah, that's strange. That was captured in an abandoned graveyard in the same county as the Crybaby tunnel legend, and this legend's called Elizabeth's Grave. And supposedly, there's a story where a woman, husband died, untimely death. She was very she grieved this so much that all she could do is pretty much hang out at the graveyard and mourn his death, cried, moan, and so forth. And eventually she ended up either hanging herself or she was murdered by hanging. And at the time we went back there this year, we found out which version was true. But to get back to this EVP, I was kind of strolling along by myself while my wife was cowering in the car because she's too scared. I was out there at night, and I got my recorder going. and you hear me kind of trip, and I say, oops, and then all of a sudden I hear this strange noise and a buzz. Now, the buzz could be an insect, but what I hear after the EVP and the buzzing sound is like a eerie echoing of some kind of weird voice, and then it dissipates, and I cannot explain that.
Yeah, well, here it is for the fans. I've got it queued up a couple times, so go ahead and take a listen and tell us what you think.
Sorry. The fuck was that? Sorry. The fuck was that? Sorry. The fuck was that? Sorry. The fuck was that?
that response, the fuck was that? That's classic.
Yeah, it's strange, you're out there looking for it, but when it happens, you're still like, whoa, what the fuck is that? It's just a human response, pretty much.
Yeah, that's usually my response too when something happens is, the fuck was that?
Now the creepy voice that I believe says Christy, and kind of like in a weird, strange way. That's not what got me. The weird echoings that I didn't hear with my own ears, that was on the audio. That's what was weird.
Oh wow! And this is the other EVP that you sent me. It's creepy in its own word because, I mean, who's ever caught a dog barking on an EVP? Well,
I've never heard of it, ever.
Yeah, I mean, we all know they have spirits, but, I mean, the dog, was he trying to communicate? But where did you catch this, and what was the circumstances surrounding it?
Okay, this was in my actual hometown, Hillsboro, Ohio. There is a historical building in our town called the Scott House, and a man named William Scott built the house, and when I was it was our high school that I went to, that's tore down now, was built next to it, and it was an administration building. And now the Historical Society's gotten a hold of it, and they're maintaining it, restoring it, trying to keep it going. But we had a one chance only to go into this place, and we were in there, doing our investigation. This was captured in this wasn't the basement. This was in the first floor, and we're just trying to get a response in the room. And we do hear of a noise at the time, but it was nothing like the dog bark. And at the same exact time, we get a K2 spike, and it was the only K2 spike of the evening. And what you'll hear is, plain crystal clear, a dog yelp or / bark.
Yeah, well, I'll go ahead and play it. And this one, I kind of laughed when I heard it because, I mean, it's the first time I've ever heard a dog give you an EVP, but here it is.
I have a 10-year-old daughter who would love to have it. I was wondering if I could take it.
Did that just jump?
I have a 10-year-old daughter who would love to have it. I was wondering if I could take it.
Did that just jump?
I have a 10-year-old daughter who would love to have it. I was wondering if I could take it.
Did that just jump?
I have a 10-year-old daughter who would love to have it. I was wondering if I could take it.
So, did you guys come to any conclusions on what happened? I mean, was there some kind of abused dogs going on in this place, or?
No. The research we were able to do, we found out that the guy who built the house and lived there had a dog, and he did write about the dog. So we kind of speculated that we did earlier in the investigation through a spirit box. We had the name William, come across several times. So we kind of speculated that if the dog was there in spirit, he may had to, keep the dog obedient while there was strangers going around in the house. But if you listen to the audio, it's almost like a yelp. It's not really like like a warning bark. So it may be just residual, not intelligent.
Yeah, that's one of the things that is, a lot of stuff is residual too. But I think it's just awesome that question in chat says, Justin, in the EVP said, was that jumping? What were you seeing?
The K2 meter jumped. It spiked. That's what kind of terminology we use sometimes. And when we looked at her device, when we kind of heard something, you'll hear me and the other investigators kind of laughing under our breath, like what kind of what was that? Unexpected. It's kind of like a response to it. And then I was like, did that jump? And the female.
Okay. All right. Well, the next EVP is a ghost box response that says, I love you again. Where'd you guys catch this one at?
This one was probably at the case I was speaking about before with the daughter, with the young girl dying in her garage.
Okay, so this is the response that you were talking about.
Now, right, and to kind of set this up, at the time and I have this on my YouTube channel, when we're listening to the Ghost Box live as it's happening, there's nothing, absolutely nothing, but on playback, you get it. Now that's what sets it aside from real-time EVP to a classic EVP.
Okay, and this is the touching one that we were talking about earlier, so I'm going to play it 4 times for the fans, and tell us what you think.
Tell your dad that you love him. Let him know that you're here. Tell your dad that you love him. Let him know that you're here. Tell your dad that you love him. Let him know that you're here. Tell your dad that you love him. Let him know that you're here.
That's it was kind of deep. I mean, what did you guys think about it when it came through?
Well, the difference between like an actual voice that sounds human and what you're hearing on this audio is quite different. Now, in my theory and belief that in most EVP cases, it's a manipulation of noise. Okay, so a lot of times you'll get stuff like this to come across, especially if they're manipulating in their own way. Now, I believe that they were using the noise from the device to speak, and that's why it's kind of robotic and almost non-human-like sounding. And that's what we were repeating it like we are in your show to the client to get him to understand that, because he's hearing it, but he's not saying, well, that can't be my daughter. But the fascinating, awesome thing was through the process of us repeating it to him, she manifested to him. Now that, to me, is, sealing the deal. It's like, Dad, that is me. That was me.
Yeah.
So there's no doubt in my mind that it wasn't her. But to people listening to it from the outside, it's kind of hard for them to completely be sold on it. Now, unfortunately, I can't show you the documentary of that, but there it is. You will run into EVP like this.
Yeah, I'm gonna play it one more time because somebody said that they couldn't quite hear it, so I'm gonna jack the microphone up to that, and here goes.
Tell your dad that you love him. Let him know that you're here.
You hear him right after he says, "Tell your dad that you're here. Tell him you love him," and then it almost sounds like I don't even know how to explain it. It's just like a it's hard to explain, but I hope you heard it. It is a very heavy EVP, but we're going to go ahead and move on to this one that is a Josh EVP.
Yes, this is in the Scott house again, where the dog EVP was captured, but we're in the basement this time. Now this is, I believe, now I'm biased of course, but I believe this is the best EVP I've ever heard, and it may be the best EVP ever captured that I've ever heard, and I've listened to quite a few.
All right, so
we're in the basement. We just experienced a door opening on its own, so we're trying to debunk it. Right, we're trying to figure out how it possibly could have done it without it being paranormal, and this is what we caught.
All right, here it goes.
See? There was someone definitely there. See? There was someone definitely there. See? There was someone definitely there.
Yeah, so it sounds like he's whispering Joe or Josh, right?
Right. It's like it's kind of weird. It's almost like it's trying to creep me out as it's saying it or something. It's creepy, but I think it's pretty clear and loud.
Yeah, and it's so clear and loud, and it's giving me chills, the fans chills. I'm playing it two more times.
See? There was someone definitely there. See? There was someone definitely there.
That's crazy.
It is.
If you could see me right now, the hairs on my arms are standing up. I mean, it's just that's something else. And I could play that one over and over. I'm telling you, that's one of the best EVPs we played on air. I'm giving it to you right now.
The challenge is to find something better than that, because I want to hear it.
Yeah, and I tell you, the day I'll tell them. But right now, that's probably one of the best EVPs that we've heard on air. So, but yeah, we're gonna move on because the time is running short. But this one is the Mommy Who's Talking to You, Angie Ghostbox response.
Yeah, that's at the Crybaby Tunnel. I'm actually trying to get information from the mother, trying to get her name and so forth. And you hear at the beginning a child cry out, "Mommy," and then you'll hear something very strange. A woman responds immediately after and says, "Who are you talking to?" Kind of like a typical mother response. And then I can't remember if I asked for a name, but then right after, almost immediately after, you get the name Angie in a female voice.
All right, well, here goes this pretty good EVP. I'm going to play it 3 times for the fans here.
Anybody there? Anybody there? Anybody there?
It's another pretty good capture there. Now I'm going to ask you, because we have 4 left, but we only have a couple of minutes left. Which one do you think is the best one to play for the fans? You got the Ghost Box responses with Timmy, the REM Pod, EVP, or No Schrader Tunnel?
Oh, that's kind of hard. Let's let them listen to the REM Pod EVP. And to set this up real quick, we're at a private residential case that I actually have a documentary to. We are experiencing the REM pod going off, and we're filming that and trying to get responses out of it, which we do. But I captured the most clear, full sentence EVP I've ever captured. And what makes it so freaky is during the interview process, the client has children, and he says he has to pray to them every night so they go to bed because they feared the paranormal activity that much. And while we're sitting there trying to speak to the entity that's there through the REM pod, we captured this EVP.
All right, so I'm going to play it a couple times for the fans, and let me know in chat what you think.
Is there someone up in the attic? Can you make a noise?
Hey, Chris.
set of batteries.
Can you make this light up in my hand?
Did you hear that?
The little green light up.
If there's someone up in the attic, can you make a noise? Hey, Chris. One more set of batteries.
Can you make this light up in my hand?
Did you hear that?
The little green light up.
That's creepy in its own facts. I've got my noise cancellation headphones on, and I think every time I've heard that EVP, I look behind me. So, because it literally sounds like somebody is sitting right behind you, whispering. Do you know who is whispering?
Idea. The client. I'm given okay to disclose all this information to you with this case. The client has actually been on Paranormal State with PRS, and Lorraine Warren has gone to the house. And if anybody's interested in looking back on that case, is where his sister committed suicide in their garage in Miamisburg, Ohio. And I think it's season 10 to Do Bad Things, Paranormal State, if you want to look that up. But there was a spirit named Philip that they were able to get a name, and it's believed that the spirit followed him to his residence in Dayton, Ohio. And the reason we believe that it may be the same spirit is we got the name Philip on the spirit box. So when I was able to get that for him, it blew his mind. And when he listened to that, especially that last sentence, you hear it whispers like, make up your mind, I'll make you pray, little girl. I mean, when he listened to that, it pretty much, I think it did more bad than good.
Yeah, wow. Well, to end off the show, can you tell the fans again where they can see all this awesome evidence that you have?
Yes, if you go to YouTube, you just type in Interface Death, or you can, there's links to it on my Facebook page at Interface Death. It's very easy to find. There's probably over 115 videos spanning almost 2 years there. I hope you have a lot of time in your hands. That's all I got to tell you.
Yeah. Well, hey, I do appreciate you coming on the show. I'm going to have you hold on for a second, and I'm going to end the show because it is my show, and I got to give the news out. But I do appreciate you coming on, and I will be back with you in 1 second, okay?
No problem. Thanks for having me.
All right. Anyways, next week, it's going to be an awesome, awesome show. Next week, No Whiners Radio is basically we're breaking barriers, and next week is like my first. I wouldn't consider him a celebrity or anything, but it's Danny Bigbeard, the creator of the Spirit Vox, the Echo Vox, and all kinds of other apps. I've gotten him to agree to come on, so that is going to be an awesome show, and I am also trying to talk to Steve Huff about coming on the week after. So we're going to try to swing that, but I can't promise anything on him. But next week in cement is Danny Bigbeard from Big Beard Studios, the creator of the Spirit Box, the Echo Box, and I think he's got like 3 other apps. And it's going to be an awesome show because I'm going to grill him how he made the app, some of his captures on it, because I've listened to some of his captures, and they're phenomenal, and it's mind-boggling, some of the stuff that you can get through an application on your cell phone. But and also make sure to tune in for Saturday for the Asylum, and I think they go on at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If I get it wrong, I'm sorry, Bobby, but I say this every week, so you should have corrected me by now. But it's a great talk show. Last week I was on for like the whole 2 hours, and we were just shooting the shit, so it was fun. But and coming up, we're ramping up for Halloween, so I'm gonna be doing the haunted ritual show, and I'm trying to get a demonologist to come on, and we got a lot of stuff going on. So be sure to stay tuned. It's every Thursday on No Whiners Radio's Paranormal World Live, and I'm telling you, it keeps getting better every week. Justin brought his best EVP, and that thing just, it blew me out of the water. So I hope everybody that wants to come on the show is listening and know what they have to step up to, because I mean, right now I think Justin from Interface Death has the best EVP of the year on Paranormal World Live. But with that being said, I'm going to finish off the show. Somebody requested this song. You won't hear this group anywhere on the radio, but if you're watching my videos, Paranormal Warnings on YouTube, you know this song. Everybody loves this song. It is Dead Man's Hand, Hangman. I just wanted to cut in and say thank you to everybody that tuned in. I really appreciate it. Make sure you're here next week. Danny Bigbeard, Echovox, Spirit Box. It is going to be one hell of a show, and I'm hoping he's bringing it because I'm bringing it. But this is Rick signing off, Paranormal World Live.